Hey everybody, and welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're looking at something that I think affects a lot of us: field service management.
Hmm.
You know, those technicians who come to our homes or businesses to fix things or install things.
Yeah, for sure.
We have this really interesting white paper called The Cost of Complexity.
Okay.
And it gets into how the tools companies choose to manage those field operations can really impact their success.
Absolutely, they can.
So that's what we're diving into today.
Those choices really can make or break a company.
To help us unpack it all, we have an expert here with us today who knows a ton about streamlining business processes.
Happy to be here.
Now, before we even get into the specifics of this white paper, I'm curious, what's the biggest mistake you see businesses making when they're trying to choose a field service management tool?
I think companies often go for those systems that try to do everything.
Okay.
They want every feature imaginable.
Right. It's tempting to want it all.
It is, and the white paper uses this great phrase: they offer everything but deliver inefficiency.
Okay, so that's interesting. Why would more features make a system less efficient?
Yeah, seems counterintuitive, right?
It does.
Well, research shows that technicians using these really complex systems actually lose around 2 hours every day just on manual workarounds.
Wow.
The software is just so hard to use.
Oh, wow.
And when you think about it, that's thousands of dollars in lost productivity every year per technician.
Yeah.
Companies are basically paying for features that their teams can't even use.
So 2 hours a day is a big loss.
It is a big loss.
And I know the white paper points to these inefficiencies as just one hidden cost of complex systems.
Right.
It also mentions things like training and support costs.
Exactly. The more complex the system is, the longer it takes to train people to use it, which means employees aren't actually out there doing their jobs.
Right, they're stuck in training.
Right. They're in the classroom, or they're just trying to figure out the software.
Struggling with it.
And then when they do run into problems, and they need a lot more help from support staff. Yeah. So those costs add up very quickly.
So companies are paying for this complexity in several different ways.
Yes.
It's not just the price of the software itself.
No.
It's all these other costs that people don't always think about.
Yeah, they add up.
And I know this complexity also ends up impacting the customer experience, too.
It does.
I can definitely see how technicians struggling with a clunky system might miss appointments or things get delayed.
It's not just that. Errors are more likely with a complex system,
Oh, that makes sense.
and that can hurt a company's reputation and its customer relationships.
Yeah.
If a company is constantly having to reschedule appointments or apologize for mistakes, they're going to end up with a lot of unhappy customers.
So it's like this domino effect, right?
Yes.
The complexity causes inefficiencies, which drives up costs, and then it ultimately ends up hurting the customer experience.
It really is a domino effect.
So it sounds like this white paper is really advocating for simplicity then.
Yeah, that's the main point. They argue that simplicity isn't just about making things easier, it's about gaining a strategic advantage for your company.
Now that's really interesting. What are some specific advantages of using a simpler system?
Well, for one, there's something called time to value.
Yeah.
With a simpler system, you can implement it a lot faster,
Right.
and your team can learn it more quickly.
Makes sense.
That means they can actually start using it right away and start seeing results.
So that's a big contrast to those complex systems where implementation can take months and months.
Exactly right.
Yeah, and those implementations are really expensive and they can disrupt a business's operations.
For sure.
I know there are systems out there like Dusk FSM that can be deployed in just a few days.
Yeah, in just a few days.
That's a huge difference.
It's a game changer.
So how does a system like Dusk FSM manage to be implemented so quickly? What sets it apart from others?
Well, they don't try to be everything to everyone. They focus on the core functionality that field service businesses need, and they deliver it in a very simple and intuitive way.
So it's about focusing on the things that really matter to field service businesses rather than trying to be everything to everyone.
Exactly. And their interface is designed to be very user-friendly.
Got it.
Even someone who isn't very tech-savvy can learn it quickly and start using it effectively.
That's a big deal because it means less time and money spent on training.
It does.
And it also has a positive impact on employee morale, I imagine.
Right.
If technicians feel confident using their software, it makes their jobs easier and less stressful.
It gives them the tools they need to succeed.
Right. And I've also heard that Dusk FSM has some really powerful automation features that handle all those repetitive tasks.
Yes, they do.
Can you tell us a little bit more about those?
Dusk FSM handles things like scheduling and dispatching really well,
Okay.
but it also automates things like follow-up appointments and generating invoices and updating customer records.
So all those tasks that can take up so much time if they're being done manually,
Exactly.
not to mention the potential for human error.
Right, there's always that risk.
And even small errors can lead to bigger problems down the road.
It can.
So automating those tasks can save a lot of time and reduce costly errors.
It can.
It's about working smarter, not harder.
That's the idea.
And it sounds like Dusk FSM really does achieve that balance of being powerful but also simple to use.
They do. It's about understanding the challenges that field service businesses face and coming up with solutions that meet those challenges.
I'm curious to hear more about Dusk FSM because I think it's a great example of how simplicity can be a strategic advantage for field service businesses.
It is.
But before we get into those specifics, I want to take a step back and just talk about the benefits of simplicity in general.
Sure.
So for our listeners who are thinking about their own field service operations, why should they care about simplicity?
Well, there are so many benefits, but I think the most important one is that it can improve your decision making.
Okay, how does that work? How does a simpler system lead to better decisions?
Well, with a complex system, you often have data spread out across different modules.
Okay.
So it can be difficult to get a clear picture of what's actually happening in your business.
So it's hard to see the big picture.
It is.
It's like trying to put together a puzzle, but you don't have all the pieces.
Exactly.
You can see bits and pieces, but you can't see the whole thing.
Right. But with a system like Dusk FSM, everything is in one place.
Okay.
You have clear dashboards and reports that give you actionable insights.
I see.
So you can quickly identify trends and spot bottlenecks and see where you need to make changes.
So it's about having a clear view of your data, which allows you to make more strategic decisions.
Precisely. And because the system is so user-friendly, everyone on your team can access and understand the data.
I love that.
It's not just for the tech people.
It's about giving everyone the power to use data to make decisions.
Yes.
And that leads to another important benefit, better customer service.
That's right. Simplicity is a key part of great customer service.
Can you explain that a little bit?
Sure.
How does a simpler system make customers happier?
It comes down to responsiveness and efficiency.
Okay.
With a simpler system, your whole team, from dispatchers to technicians, can be more responsive to customers.
Right. Because they're not struggling with the system itself.
Exactly.
They can focus more on the customer.
And that leads to faster resolution times, fewer errors, and a much better overall experience for customers.
So a simpler system makes life better for everyone, your team and your customers.
Absolutely. It's a win-win situation.
There's one more benefit I want to touch on before we wrap up this first part.
Go.
It's something that the white paper highlights as being crucial in today's business world, and that is agility.
Yes.
What do they mean by that?
They're talking about a company's ability to adapt to changing conditions.
Okay, like being able to respond quickly to changes in the market or new customer demands.
Exactly.
So being flexible.
Yes. And the white paper argues that simplicity directly contributes to agility.
I can see how that would be true.
Yeah.
A simpler system would be easier to change as needed.
Yes. You can modify it and adjust it as you go.
Whereas a really complex system is hard to change.
It's like trying to turn around a giant ship.
Right.
It takes a lot of effort to go in a different direction.
You need a smaller boat,
Right.
something more nimble.
Exactly.
So it's not about the size, it's about how easy it is to move in a new direction.
Exactly.
And that's why simplicity is so important for business growth.
It is.
It allows companies to seize opportunities and adapt to challenges and stay ahead of the curve.
It does.
This has been a great discussion so far.
It has been.
We've talked about the hidden costs of complexity, the power of simplicity, and how a tool like Dusk FSM can offer solutions to businesses in the field service industry.
It's been great unpacking all of this with you.
It really has. And for our listeners, if you've been taking notes, you probably have a lot to think about.
A lot to think about.
We'll be back in part 2 to go deeper into the specifics of Dusk FSM and how its features can help businesses achieve the benefits we've talked about.
Sounds good.
So stay tuned.
So, picking up where we left off, I think one thing the white paper makes really clear is that businesses often fall into this trap of thinking they need the system that has absolutely everything.
Yeah, it's like we all want that Swiss Army knife that can do it all.
Right.
But as we've been talking about, that can really backfire.
It can, especially with field service management software.
Exactly. So how does Dusk FSM approach this differently? It seems like they're doing something right based on this white paper.
Well, Dusk FSM focuses on doing a few things really well
Yeah.
instead of trying to be everything to everybody.
So it's more about being a master of your craft.
Yes, exactly.
Focusing on what really matters for field service businesses and then doing those things really well.
Exactly. And the white paper talks about some of the core features that they've really nailed, like their intuitive interface. It's so easy to use that someone who isn't very technical can learn it quickly and start using it right away.
That's huge because earlier we were talking about the cost of training and support
Right.
and how a complex system can really be a drain on resources in those areas.
Yeah, it can be really expensive.
So if you have a system that's intuitive right from the start, you can save a lot of money.
Absolutely.
And I imagine it also has a big impact on employee morale.
It does. If your technicians are constantly battling with software that's hard to use, it's not going to make them very happy.
Right, they're not going to be thrilled about coming to work if they have to use that every day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But with a system like Dusk FSM, technicians can actually enjoy using the software.
Okay.
It's intuitive, it's mobile-friendly, and it gives them the information they need right when they need it.
Yeah.
It actually helps them do their jobs better.
That's a great point. So much of the focus is on how these tools help the back office.
Right.
But it's really important to create a positive user experience for the technicians out in the field.
It is.
They're the ones who are interacting with customers.
They are.
So their experience really impacts the quality of service that a company provides.
You're exactly right. And speaking of efficiency, the white paper also talks about Dusk FSM's automation capabilities.
Yes, I wanted to ask you about that.
Sure.
Can you give me some concrete examples? What kinds of tasks are we talking about here?
So they handle things like scheduling and dispatching really well,
Okay.
but it goes beyond that.
Okay.
The system automates things like setting up follow-up appointments, generating invoices, updating customer records.
All those little administrative tasks that can take so much time.
Exactly. And it also eliminates the risk of human error.
Right, because when those are done manually, there's always the possibility of a mistake.
There is.
And even small mistakes can create bigger problems down the road.
They can.
So automating those tasks can free up a lot of time for teams to focus on more strategic work.
Exactly.
It's all about working smarter, not harder.
That's right.
And Dusk FSM seems to have that philosophy built into its design.
They do. It's about giving field service businesses the tools they need to improve their operations and grow their businesses.
So it's not just software, it's an investment in their future.
It is.
And I'm struck by this emphasis on agility.
Mm-hmm.
The white paper makes a strong argument for why simplicity is so crucial in a business environment that's constantly changing.
Right.
Can you say more about that connection between simplicity and agility?
Well, the white paper says that agility has become a key differentiator in field service management.
Sure.
They're basically saying that businesses today need to be able to adapt quickly to all kinds of changes.
Right.
Changes in the market, new customer demands, you name it.
If you can't adjust quickly, you're going to fall behind.
Exactly.
It's like you need to be driving a speedboat instead of a giant ship.
That's a good way to put it.
You need to be able to make those quick turns.
You do. And that's where a simple system really excels. It's easier to implement, it's easier to learn, and it's easier to change when you need to.
So you don't have to spend a lot of time reconfiguring the system every time something changes in your business.
Exactly.
You can just make the adjustment and keep going.
Right. The white paper argues that this agility is essential for companies that want to succeed in today's fast-paced business world.
It's not a luxury anymore, it's a necessity.
It is.
It sounds like Dusk FSM really offers a solution to this challenge.
It does.
It allows businesses to streamline their operations and stay ahead of the curve without being weighed down by complexity.
Exactly. It gives them the flexibility and responsiveness they need to thrive in this kind of environment. Now, before we wrap up this part, I want to talk about something that I think is often overlooked but really important.
Okay.
And that is the importance of great customer support.
Yes, I was going to ask you about that.
Okay.
Because you can have the best software in the world, but if you don't have good support, it's not going to matter much.
You're right. We've all experienced that frustration of trying to get help with software, being put on hold for hours, or being transferred from one department to another.
It's a nightmare.
It is.
Yeah.
Especially if you're dealing with software that's really important to your business.
Right, if your business depends on it.
Right. It can really bring things to a halt.
So how does Dusk FSM handle this part of the customer experience?
Well, from everything I've seen, Dusk FSM has made customer support a top priority.
Okay.
They offer personalized onboarding and training so you can get up and running quickly.
Okay.
They have a dedicated support team that's available 204/7 to answer questions and help with problems.
That's great.
And maybe most importantly, they're constantly getting feedback from their customers to make sure they're meeting their needs.
So it sounds like they're really proactive.
They are.
It's not just about reacting to problems, it's about preventing them from happening in the first place.
Exactly. And that's something that sets them apart from a lot of other companies. They understand that customer support is a really important part of their product.
Right. It's not just about selling the software and then forgetting about the customer.
Right. It's about building relationships.
Yeah, and being there for the long haul, which is really important for smaller businesses that might not have their own IT department.
It is.
Knowing that you have a supportive team you can turn to when you need help makes a big difference.
It does.
It can give you the confidence to try new things and really focus on growing your business.
Exactly. It takes away the fear and uncertainty that often comes with new software.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this second part. We've talked about how Dusk FSM takes a different approach to field service management by focusing on what's important and making things easy to use.
We have.
We've talked about their intuitive interface and their automation capabilities and their commitment to providing really great support.
Yes. It's been great talking about all of this with you.
It really has. And for our listeners, if you've been keeping track, you probably have pages of notes by now. We'll be back for the third and final part of our deep dive into field service management, where we'll look at the big picture and how all of this connects to business growth.
Okay. That's good.
So be sure to tune in. Welcome back to the show, everyone. In this final part, let's tie everything together and look at how the right field service management tools can really make a difference for a business.
Sounds good.
I think one of the most interesting points the white paper makes is that there's a direct link between simplicity, agility, and growth. It seems counterintuitive, right?
It does.
You would think that as a company gets bigger, it would need more complex systems.
Right. To handle more data and operations.
Exactly.
Yeah, a lot of people think that, but the white paper actually argues that complexity often leads to rigidity,
Okay.
and that can really stifle growth.
Can you explain that a bit more? How does being rigid hurt a business's ability to grow?
Well, imagine a company that's been using a really complex FSM system for years.
Oh.
They've customized it and tweaked it over time,
Mm-hmm.
and then a new opportunity comes along.
Okay.
Maybe they want to offer a new service or expand into a new region,
Mm-hmm.
but their system is so rigid that it's really difficult to make those changes.
It's like trying to turn a big truck around.
Yes, exactly.
It's just not going to happen quickly.
It's not. You might miss the opportunity completely because you can't move fast enough.
You need to be more agile, more nimble.
Yes, exactly. You need a system that lets you adapt quickly and respond to changes and take advantage of new opportunities when they come up.
So it's not about how big your system is, it's about how flexible it is.
Exactly. And that's what Dusk FSM does so well.
Mm-hmm.
They design their system to be flexible and adaptable.
Okay.
So companies can change with the times without having to go through these huge system upgrades that cost a lot of time and money.
Can you give me a real-world example of what that flexibility looks like?
Sure. Let's say a business wants to start operating in a new area. With Dusk FSM, they can easily add new technicians, set up new service areas, and even create new service packages without any major restructuring of the system.
It's like having building blocks that you can easily rearrange as your business changes.
Exactly. That's why simplicity is so important for growth.
Mm-hmm.
It allows businesses to be responsive, which is essential in today's business world.
And the white paper really emphasizes that agility is a key differentiator for businesses.
It does. They say agility has become a crucial differentiator in field service management.
So if you're not agile, you're at a disadvantage.
You are. You're going to fall behind.
Because everything changes so fast.
It does.
It's like trying to keep up with a moving train. And it sounds like Dusk FSM gives businesses the tools they need to do that.
It does.
It's not just about making things easier, it's about giving businesses a real competitive advantage.
Exactly.
Well, this has been a fantastic discussion.
It has.
We've talked about the hidden costs of complexity, the importance of simplicity, and how a tool like Dusk FSM can help businesses in the field service industry.
It's been a really interesting conversation.
It really has. So for our listeners, if you could leave them with one key message from this entire episode, what would it be?
I would say don't let a complex system hold you back. There are better solutions out there.
Okay.
It might be time to take a look at your own business and see if a system like Dusk FSM could be the key to unlocking your potential.
That's great advice. Thank you so much for being here with us today on the deep dive.
It's been my pleasure.
And for our listeners, thank you for joining us for this deep dive into field service management. We hope you found it valuable, and we look forward to having you back for our next episode.